Hello, people. It's time for coffee. Let's see if anybody actually comes in and watches this. This is actually the first time I've used my phone app to go live on YouTube. I've been doing this on Periscope. Hello, folks. Come on in. We're going to talk about Donald Trump's powers of persuasion and how he can create something out of nothing. Pictures good? Good sound? You know, I built an entire YouTube studio upstairs, but it's so complicated that it hasn't worked correctly even once. I know how to do everything, it's just it never works more than once. Sure, I can motivate you. So I'm going to take my coffee in a moment and go over to my workstation, and we're going to, so the sound and picture are way better than Periscope. The Constitution is archaic. I don't know what you're talking about, but I guess, is that something that Trump said today? I'm just using YouTube's own app on my phone. Oh, landscape mode would be better? Is that true? Does everybody agree with that? As soon as I sit down, I'll try landscape mode. So, all right, let's turn it sideways and see. It says rotate device. That's weird. So apparently it doesn't let me do that. So it gave me an error message. I have the rotation feature turned on my phone, but the YouTube app just blocked me. It wouldn't let me turn sideways. All right, so let me talk about my blog this morning. So the blog was about how a master persuader, Trump in this case, President Trump to you, can create assets out of nothing. And I'll give you a few examples. With North Korea, yesterday there was a big story about how Trump had said that he would be honored to beat the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un. And that was an example of creating something out of nothing. Because until he made that statement, the meeting in person was never on the table. But now he's got something that he can offer, something that has value to North Korea, because they'd like to increase their international status. And if they negotiate a deal, the leader would like to say, yeah, I met with him and I stared down the leader of the United States and we agreed to that they would get rid of some of their military in South Korea or whatever the deal is. But he needs something to take back to his people. So Trump created from nothing the option that maybe they would meet in person, which just simply didn't exist before. That option just wasn't anywhere. And now he has something to give to him for free. It didn't cost anything. He just used a word, and suddenly an asset appeared from nothing. Something he can trade away, something he can negotiate. Look also at the border wall. So forget about, for the moment, your opinion of whether we should have a border wall or not. Just the narrow point that he uses persuasion to create something out of nothing. So right now, immigration is down, 50, 70%, depending who you listen to. And it's as if President Trump has already created a border wall out of nothing but persuasion. So if his persuasion is keeping people from entering the country almost as effectively as a physical wall would have, he has, in effect, built a border wall out of nothing but words, and it's actually keeping people out. Take a look at the stock market. The optimism about a Trump presidency was so high that the value of the stock market went up, $1 trillion or whatever it was. And that's real money. In other words, I can sell my stocks for 14% more than I bought them for or what they were a year ago. And that's real money. I can bank that. That optimism translated into real money. He created an enormous financial asset out of nothing. Let's see, I had a couple other examples. Take climate change. Now, this one depends on what you think about the climate models. If you think the climate models are accurate and the world is ending, then this is not a good example for you. But if you think that the climate models were probably wildly inaccurate guesses, because there's no such thing as a complicated prediction model that's actually accurate. So if you think that's the case, then what President Trump did was, by favoring jobs over CO2 reduction, he has traded away fear of climate change, which in a sense is not a real thing. In other words, fear is not an asset. It's not a thing. But he traded that fear for money, saving money on reducing CO2, creating money by creating jobs, keeping more jobs, and that sort of thing. So in a sense, and again, this one depends on your view of climate science, but again, he used the process of creating something out of nothing. He created savings where there weren't going to be any. Likewise with TPP that he canceled, and NAFTA that he's talking tough about, and negotiating with China about trade. All these trade agreements, he has once again created something out of nothing. By simply questioning them, he'll probably get better deals. Take a look at NATO. NATO countries were not paying their fair share. Now, they're still not paying enough, but they're paying more. And what did they get in return? Nothing. He just used persuasion to create money that went into NATO, so we don't have to pay as much, presumably, or we just get a better result, out of nothing. So you see the pattern fairly consistently. Take that $1 trillion of overseas offshore money that's being held by corporations. They can't repatriate it because of taxes. Well, if he fixes the tax code so they can repatriate it, and really fixing the tax code is really a case of persuasion. You just have to convince people to do it. And he's halfway there. He'll create $1 trillion in wealth, or whatever the value is of the money that's brought back, less than $1 trillion, I'm sure. Take a look at his tax plan. He's looking to cut corporate taxes to increase the economy. Now, back in the days of Jack Kemp and supply-side economics, I mean, we've been talking about this concept for decades. It never really made sense before. Because before, if you cut taxes, the companies would say, hey, thanks to the tax cut, I think I'll give the CEO a raise, and we'll hire some workers in other countries to do the work, and we'll just keep moving all our good stuff overseas. So you could create money for corporations, but it would just bleed out to other countries because that's where the workers were. Trump has changed that equation. Now it's harder to move your operations overseas, and harder to expand your overseas operations. So now if Trump creates more money by cutting taxes in the United States, that money has to sort of stay in the United States, or a little more likely to stay in the United States. And I don't know if cutting taxes really does produce enough income to pay for itself. I think that's a pretty questionable claim. But you can see here again that there's at least the possibility of creating something out of nothing. At least the attempt is being made. So you see fairly consistently that persuasion is being used to create something out of nothing. And Trump does it consistently. Yeah, that whole shut down the government stuff, I tend to just ignore all that stuff. What do you do to Dickerson? You saw my comic in Cialdini's Persuasion book. Trump is a piece of shit, and so is his supporters. I like the people who haven't figured out why their candidate lost yet. It might have something to do with that attitude. Lower taxes come with loophole closures. Yes. But the idea is that they'll still be lower overall. His recent interactions with the media, what about them? It seems to me that when Donald Trump, President Trump, says something like, I call face the nation, deface the nation, he's sort of the only person who could get away with it. And it's the only way, the things he says don't really have the same impact as if they came from other people, right? So I think you have to put it in context. President Trump could criticize the Pope. He's already criticized the media. He could criticize anything he wanted because that's just who he is. So as long as he stays true to his nature, it doesn't mean more than words. People will understand it as being, oh, he just does that stuff. Yeah. Yes. He's being hilarious when he talks to these, to the media now. Talk about Paris yet? Did something happen in Paris? Trump on cannabis? Well, I had predicted that the Trump administration would not move against states that had legal medical marijuana or recreational. And so far, it looks like that's the case. Sessions is talking tough, but he has a personal feeling about it. So far, his professional life hasn't come into play. Let's see if we can get rid of the trolls. One troll gone. So this is the first time I've used YouTube like this. In other words, this is the first time I've done live streaming from my phone on YouTube. I had been doing a big camera setup thing, but it wasn't working. The budget. The budget is so darn boring. I'm talking about the national budget. That I just can't get engaged. I'm pretty sure that nobody really knows what's going on with the budget because it's just too big. There's the French elections. Well, I would go with the polls in the French election. It's funny, I got all new trolls on here. I've mostly gotten rid of all the trolls on Periscope, but I've got a whole new batch here. Somebody just sent me $2. I don't know how you did that, but that was cool. Thank you. Zero-based budgeting, I don't know if you could do that with the government. Maybe you could, but... Super chat. Oh, super chat. Okay. So anybody who's on super chat can give money? Okay, happy birthday to your friend Adam. I do notice you. Oh, the El Chapo bill. Yeah, the El Chapo bill was pretty funny. I'm not sure the El Chapo bill makes any sense, because where was that money going to go before? It was going somewhere, and now it's not going there anymore. So I'm not sure that was free money, but I loved the persuasion of it. I think Ted Cruz hit a solid triple on that. Do I browse 4chan? I have not, no. Oh my God, people giving me money. Thank you. And thanks for reading my book. I appreciate that. Yeah, how can I get the money? What bank has it? I think at one point maybe I signed up for some banking relationship on YouTube. I don't know. There are Paris riots right now. Someone tell me who this is. Dear God, who is this old guy talking on my YouTube? Fox News going further left. I don't know if Fox News will go further left, but they're definitely going to go further female. So I'm pretty sure they'll get some female executives in there. By the way, I watched a movie last night at home on demand. It was part of the what is Kate Beckinsale's series where she's a vampire? I forget that one. But they anyway, it became totally sexist. It was almost unwatchable. It was so sexist against men, of course. Underworld, yes. Yep. I do like the series. This last one was just garbage. Win Bigley. Yes, that's the name of my book coming out in October. Do I have an opinion on Ben Shapiro? I do not. I've seen a few of the things he's said and written, and they seemed quite smart sounding, but I don't have any other opinion beyond that. I haven't seen Red Pill. I've got to look for that. I have not seen it, no. Thomas Sowell, I don't have an opinion. Ivanka running, I don't think she's going to want to. I don't know, I'm not getting the sense. Silicon Valley visas. Well, I have an opinion that we should import as much talent as we can absorb. Kevin O'Leary dropped out, did he? Nothing on Bill Nye. The Bill Nye thing, I think the most useless thing I've seen is the criticism that Bill Nye is not a real scientist. He's an engineer who plays a scientist on TV. And I don't see how any of that matters, because the things he is saying are either correct or they're not correct. And he is trying to be a translator between scientists and regular people. And if you ask me, an engineer is probably a pretty good choice to be a translator. He's not saying he's a scientist. So, although Bill Nye and I may disagree on the credibility of climate science and models, not the science itself, but the ability of these financial models to really predict anything, we might disagree on that, but I think you would have to give him credit for being a good translator and proponent of science. I don't know what the thrill is of getting on here and just saying something sexual just because you can. Hello, Finland. Toenail fungus laser treatments? Well, they don't work. I know that. Save the bees. Will Mark Zuckerberg run for president? Isn't he too young? Professor in China from California. Hello. Suicidal depression. Have I mentioned it? I haven't mentioned suicidal depression. It doesn't really sound like a happy topic. Do I watch the Silicon Valley TV show? No. I've seen it, but I'm not a watcher, no. You can't cuck the Zuck. Is there somebody on here threatening me to answer their question? You do realize that there are a lot of questions here. How would you talk blindly to your blindly liberal mom? Well, my book coming out in October called Win Bigly will tell you how to do persuasion. It's basically how to do persuasion Trump style. I keep expecting that somebody's going to write that book, but I think nobody's going to write it the way I'm writing it, or have already written it. I haven't seen the founder, no. But I plan to. An early copy? Well, you'd probably have to be a journalist who was going to write about it. Answer me. I think people are younger on YouTube. What's my writing process? I like the people who just get out here to yell insults. What is really the point of this? Sorry, I'm just getting rid of some of the trolls. My writing process. Well, the writing process is sort of a long story. The short version is that I write in the morning because that's when my brain works best. And I write as fast as I can, and then I edit it continuously. I'm going to do a YouTube, no, I don't smoke weed before I write, usually. Sometimes, okay. I will admit that some of my best performing blog posts from 2016 were written while I was very high. And they did well, but I wouldn't write a book in that condition. How do you know for sure when a book is done? Very good question. Because it's an iterative process. That's why you ask. How do you know you can't make it better with one more pass? And the answer is that there's a diminishing returns. So the first time you go through it, you're like, I'm going to get rid of this entire chapter. It didn't work. Get rid of this paragraph. Move this over here. So you're making big changes. Every time you go through it, the changes get smaller. It's like, ooh, that sentence didn't work. And then it becomes, maybe you change the order of these words. And then finally you go through and it's like, oh, it's a typo. Get rid of that. So you take it from the big errors to the small errors until you can't find any more, or you run out of time and it's you just don't have any time to do any more. Do you have an ending in mind when you plan a book? Well, I don't usually write nonfiction. I've written 2 nonfiction books. In both cases, let's see. No, in both cases, I didn't have an ending in mind. Sometimes with a blog post, I'll have an ending in mind, but not usually. Is it like a sport to come on here and just like shout obscenities at strangers? Well, Saber, you're writing long comments that are actually so long I can't finish even your comment before it scrolls by. So perhaps if you could be more brief, you'd have a better chance of getting your question answered. Yeah, I'm using Microsoft Word to write. Oh, the plasma gas treatments for toe fungus. I'm not going to talk about that because that's a medical thing. And you should only listen to medical people about medical things. Can you be introverted and persuasive? Yes, you can. You can How did you deal with losing your hair? Nobody's ever asked me that question before. Well, and so I'll give you an answer. I started losing my hair early, sort of mid to late 20s. And it was far worse when, it was bald spots. But now that I can just sort of shave it off, it's actually great. It's just really convenient. Everyone has an opinion. What makes you more advanced? Did I ever claim to be more advanced? So the opinions that I present, both on my blog and on Periscope and here and in my books, usually what I try to give is an opinion that is a different window into the topic. So I rarely claim that my opinions are the best opinions. I claim that I might be the only person who's looking at it through that perspective. Well, thank you. Dale Carnegie, most useful thing that I've ever taken, except for a hypnosis class. The Myers-Briggs is just like horoscope, and anybody who thinks that any of that is real or useful is completely wasting their time. How do you persuade yourself to be more productive? Let me tell you one little trick. That's really a big question. I could write a whole book on that. But I want to give you one little trick for productivity. Do you ever I'll ask you this first. Do you ever have this situation where you're laying there and you're so lazy that you just can't even get up? You just think to yourself, I can't even get up. Like, I should do something. I know I should brush my teeth and go to bed. I know I should go exercise, but I can't even move anything. So here's the is that a thing on YouTube, just to come on and swear at people? I don't really understand the attraction to that. So here's the thing. If you just can't do anything, the problem is that you're imagining yourself doing the full thing. In other words, if what you need to do is get out of your chair and go, let's say, clean the kitchen or something, if you imagine the full process of cleaning the kitchen, you just sort of can't do it because you don't want to do it. You're just, so you just can't get up. So here's the trick that I use. I will think about one finger on my hand, my pinky, and I'll move it. And then I'll move the hand. And then I'll move the hand up. And then I'll move the rest of my body out of the chair. Now, that sounds stupid, but try it. The next time you can't get out of your chair and get started, think about one muscle in one place of your body, just a finger, and just move it. And you can, because it's easy. So you just move it, and then you just move your hand. Then you just move your arm, and then just move the rest of your body, and you stand up. Next thing you know, you're cleaning your house. When one doesn't want it. If you don't want to get up, it still works, because you end up just moving your small muscles that move to bigger muscles that why didn't the Dilbert TV show take over the world like Family Guy? True story, I think I would have had the Family Guy time slot on Fox. They did offer me to do a TV show on Fox, but they didn't offer a commitment to many episodes. So UPN, a tiny network at the time, offered a full commitment to episodes. And we thought, hey, if The Simpsons made Fox what it is, maybe Dilbert could make UPN what it is. So they just made a far better offer, monetarily and commitment-wise. Now, in retrospect, it was a gigantic mistake. But one never knows these things ahead of time. No, I don't whiten my teeth because these are veneers. Yeah, I've just started getting into YouTube. Why is this working so well on YouTube? YouTube apparently has much better technology. I look like Nancy Reagan, thanks. Do I like black people? I love black people. I was just saying the other day that if you gave me a choice of if you had to spend half an hour with a stranger and the only thing you knew about it is you could choose what race the stranger is. It's just half an hour you're going to talk to them. And I've said I'll always pick African American because it's always going to be interesting. VidMe, I don't even know what that is. Can a person over 30 learn to write? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, most of my learning on writing came after 30. Hello from Macau. I don't think Le Pen will win, but maybe. I don't own a Tesla now. Smaller, non-censored. Huh. Um, yeah, I am. I do drive a BMW. It's true. There are a lot of pictures of me on Twitter. I suppose there would be. Yeah. I will tell Christina that you said hi. I'll see her later tonight. Why aren't your past videos on your channel? I've deleted a lot of past stuff just because I didn't like the quality. Are you an existentialist? No, I don't label myself in any way. That's why I'm a trained hypnotist. Yes, I do. How do you spot a con artist? That's not really my expertise. North Korea army defection? Coup? I don't know what you're talking about. Is that happening, or you're asking if it will happen? Yeah, I'm blocking people as they... I don't have a podcast. Mindfulness. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Dating tips, not my category. Saw what I did yesterday? What is it that I did yesterday? I think I did something yesterday, but I'm not sure if you know what I did something. I'm not sure that you know I did something yesterday. You know, do I like cheese? That's a funny question. I used to love cheese. And I saw an article about Parmesan cheese includes like sawdust or something, basically wood chips. Apparently, there's some law that you can put some small percentage of, whatever wood is made of into cheese, and it's okay. And I thought, I'm just not comfortable with that anymore. And then all cheese started to look bad to me, just sort of suddenly. I used to be like the biggest cheese addict in the world. I would just eat tons of cheese every day. And now I don't know, especially after I saw something on the internet, so that doesn't mean it's real, about cheese having in it a natural addictive chemical, something that's similar to, I don't know, whatever heroin is. Has anybody seen that? That cheese has some kind of addictive element in it? Yes, casomorphines, exactly. So once I heard that it actually has an addictive element in it, and it's not really necessary for health, I just sort of lost interest in it. So I still eat cheese if it's on a sandwich or whatever, but I don't really buy it or go out of my way to eat it anymore. As an older person, how do I find YouTube? Well, I'm just sort of tiptoeing into YouTube, and I'm pretty sure that all ages are on here. People will find their own content. I don't believe most of the George Soros stuff. Where would you prefer to pass on? I mean, where would I want to die? Thorium reactors, those are the ones that will give us fusion, right? I've heard that in 5 years we will solve our engineering problems and have free energy. Is your spasmodic dysphonia story made up? No, it's not. And there's a scar to prove it. That's my scar from surgery. I lost my sense of smell and lost my voice. You have a neurological problem. Totally possible. Do I smoke cigarettes? No. Are you Illuminati? Maybe. Your live videos aren't saved on YouTube. That's okay. These are just practice. Do you smoke other things? Yes, I do. Why do I look like a lizard? Because lizards are awesome. The last thing I realized I was deceiving myself about. Ooh, good question. I'm sure there's an answer to that, because it happens all the time. I just can't come up with one on the fly. I can't tell if there's one person who is the troll who just keeps coming on with different names, or if there's like a little posse of trolls that just go from, live stream to live stream and say terrible things. It's hard to read these quickly. A notable example of you deceiving yourself. Well, when I was a child, I believed in God. There was a period when I believed I was an alien experiment when I was a kid. There was a time when I was in my youth that I thought people would be rewarded in the corporate world for the value of their contribution. And partly that's true, but it's largely not true. I thought that it didn't matter where I went to college as long as I learned something. But as soon as I got to the real world, I realized that the name of the college you went to makes more difference than what you learned. I remember thinking that I knew enough to vote for president and that I would be adding intelligence to the system. But I look at my votes, and then I look at how those candidates turned out. It's pretty clear I don't have any intelligence to add to the system. So that would be an example. I used to think that lifting heavy weights was how I could, get fit the fastest. But I learned that when you lift heavy weights, your small muscles, let's say your hands and your wrists, will wear out before you even get to your big muscles. So if you want to get to the big muscles, you have to use smaller weights so you don't exhaust your small muscles. So that was a big change in my thinking. Hulk Hogan lifts light weights. Have you seen that tweet about economics I sent you? I don't remember anything like that. Kratom, I haven't tried it, and I don't hear good things about it. College, yes or no? Depends on the person. I think we need more alternatives to college, and then it would be easier to say no college. An old technology I'd like back? Not really. What's my end game with this channel? Influence. Is the universe self-aware? Well, I think we're probably just a simulation made by someone else. What makes you famous? You don't have Google? All right, I'm going to end now. Thank you for staying with me way too long. You're far too nice. Do I fear death? I used to fear death until I watched a bunch of people die. I watched a lot of old relatives and in-laws die. In a period of about 2 years, I watched 6 people die. And the one thing they all had in common in that last month of life, every one of them really, really wanted to die. There was nothing they wanted more than to just die. So you can be afraid of it, but at the moment you're about to die, my experience is, unless it comes suddenly like in an accident or something like that people are ready. Somehow nature has figured that out. They make you ready when it's your time. And I haven't seen the exception yet. I haven't seen anybody begging for life in their last month of life. They're all begging for death. I mean, literally just begging. So I don't think you need to fear it if it's a natural death. You're under hospital care, you're full of morphine, your loved ones around, and you're ready to check out. That's the way death looks. If you haven't seen it, it's a lot less scary when you see it. And I thought it would be the opposite. But with modern medicine, your brain gets turned off long before your body dies. People don't talk about that a lot. But given the degree of morphine they'll give you in your last, hours of life, you don't know you're dying. If you're in a hospital when it happens. If you're in an accident, of course, that would be bad. But if you die in a hospital, the moment of death, you won't be conscious. They knock you out long before that happens. Periscope is a better experience. All right, I'm going to sign off, and I will say hi to Christina for you.